I would try to tailor the stories according to what they like.
Yeah.
So if they are into K-drama, like majority, then I would say something about like, handsome oppa walking into like a coffee shop and you're like omo or something. So I try to tailor according.
Yeah.
Or now since a lot of kids I talk to are like the Gen Alpha skibbity.
Oh, amazing. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, tax mastery. Oh, look at that. Can you hear? Can you see?
But I always encourage people to read.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think that's a good one. Yep.
Yeah, and people were like, no, why? Like, why do we have to read? But because like when you read, you kind of like increase that the memory storage for your imagination, your creativity.
Yeah, totally. Good day, everyone. This is Ray again from Nalar Bicara. Today, my guest is super special, and he's been a friend of mine for many years. Everyone, please welcome Devina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. It's been a while. I haven't seen you for a while, so it's always good to talk to a friend who's been known for many years.
Nerdy friends, yeah.
That's right. So. Yeah, look, today I wanna discuss a lot about your background and also the capabilities of storytelling, because as I remember, you're one of a few person that I'm actually looking up to. When I first start Toastmasters, the way you storytell to the entire room is really, how should I say it nicely, captivating, right?
Oh. I wish I still got that charm. But okay.
No, you still do. I think you still do. That's why I think storytelling has been a skill that is underappreciated these days. People don't really see it as a skill, and people don't really put effort into getting it right.
Yeah. You have to agree with that.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, well, please, share about your background and your in arts and education.
Background. Ooh, it's always a long story.
Of course.
I grew up like a lot of other kids.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with mangas.
Okay.
Comic books.
Yeah.
And of course, as I think I was 8 or 9, I started reading novels. And
that early.
Yes, I was very much obsessed with stories because I think a big part of it was because my mom is a storyteller. So like ever since I was a baby, she'd be like, once upon a time, there's this and that. We all grew up with the story of, say, Malin Kundang. Like we learn moral lessons and values from that. And so I was always looking for stories. Always looking for stories. And of course, because I also really like drawing, I think during the pandemic, I think it was like the beginning of pandemic when life was empty and time stopped, and I was like, what am I gonna do? I can't meet people. I can't do much. So I just started doodling and telling some stories.
Using that doodles.
Yeah, because like a lot of people are visual creatures. A lot of them they don't really do well with just words. There are reasons why, say, Japanese comic books sell better, because like they sell more because they have fewer words.
Right. They're telling stories.
Yeah, but with more
visuals, cartoonish kind of artwork.
And very dramatic.
Yeah.
Like they're also dramatic. Yeah. So they don't need a lot of words, and people know the stories. They're like, that's what happens.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, to accommodate people who don't like words as much, then I'm just gonna throw in illustrations and start posting on Instagram.
Okay.
But of course, that was helped a lot as well by Toastmasters.
Yep.
Because we were trained to like know when to stop, like
when you're giving a pause in the middle of the sentence.
Dramatic effects, right? Like the tone up and down, engage emotions, and so that definitely helped a lot. So I think my background to like storytelling is just because like my hobby in drawing. My obsession with books, comics and novels.
And you're in the education as well. You're teaching, right? So it's a must-have skills, I must say. Otherwise, the kids that you're teaching, your thought would be like, oh, who's this teacher? It's so boring.
Yeah,
right?
And I kind of wish like more teachers would tell stories more
Yeah.
than just like, here's the textbook, read it, and here's a worksheet. But for me, it's like, it doesn't really, you need to bring magic to class. These kids, especially now in this generation, they were stuck at home for 2 years.
Yep.
They were stuck at home for 2 years. They were bored.
Yeah.
And then they came back to school. The thing that they look forward to is the most would be hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Or even worse, just staring at the screen.
yeah.
For how many hours?
And they miss the screens because
Yeah.
they live with it for so long. So of course now I would walk into a classroom and the kids would just be like, okay, what can you offer me that's good?
Yeah.
As a civil, we have to entertain them.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then like we kind of have to be understanding enough to know that these kids went through this pandemic and it changed the lifestyle and they needed like some excitement.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah.
Totally. That is probably like you already touched just then. It is a skill that's really underappreciated especially when you teach people.
Yeah.
Like people wants to be entertained, right?
Yeah.
But then obviously the challenge is how are we going to incorporate those entertainment into something that is academic, for example, right? It's totally a challenge. As you mentioned in Toastmaster, we are trained to how do you grab people's attention, how do you keep the attention until the end of the speech.
And storytelling is like probably the hardest one, right?
The hardest one. Amazing. So what inspired you to integrate you as an artistic person? I see you as a very artistic. You draw a lot, you doodle a lot. Like even when you're listening to people, you'd be like, you're doodling on your.
It helps. Like if I doodle, it helps me remember.
I know.
What
I read that somewhere. It
Yeah.
actually makes you more concentrated on listening, right?
Yeah.
But it visually it feels like you're not paying attention. That's the bad part of it. You kind of have to explain to people. Oh, it's actually I'm listening to you. You know what I mean? But how do you integrate your artistic passion with teaching?
It's actually during pandemic, of course, because it started there. But even before then, which feels like ages ago. So during the pandemic, everything was on Zoom.
Right.
PPT, which is words, absolutely boring. Like the kids were like, what are we looking at? It's like more words.
Yeah.
And then at this point, they don't take notes anymore. They just take photos, or just take screenshots, and that's it, done. And
it actually the worst thing to remember things.
Yeah, and they get bored. They're lazy. So I started like opening it with just like a whiteboard, and I just started doodling
while telling stories.
Yeah, at first it was just an It was just an experiment. I remember it was I had to host like a seminar, and I had to speak nonstop for 1 hour, and I was like, there is no way. And then I thought about PPTs, and I was like, oh, they're just gonna be so bored for 1 hour.
Yeah.
How could I do it for 1 hour? So I just requested, can you guys just let me do a whiteboard?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I just did whiteboard, like I doodled while going over the points for like an hour. And then apparently, when we asked for like the feedback and critics, everyone loved it.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, oh, it's so easier to understand now. Because, and I think that was a turning point. That was when I was like, oh, doodles work.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I just started to put like a lot of doodles. And if I wanted to like teach people, like some students, like certain things, I would use stories.
Yeah. To get your point across, obviously.
Yeah. Of course, with doodles, because those kids they see words and they're like, oh, I cannot.
Does that work with adult? Have you tried it? I think it works as well, because
some adults don't like to read either.
Exactly, right. But I think it works for adults because I feel like we've bombarded with some adult stuff. Not adult stuff in a thing way, but like something like really corporate-ish, like boring, right? So it's kind of like a refreshing to see, oh, okay, this person provided me with a different, like a more simple things, like cartoon kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let me listen to what she got to say.
And because like I feel like we need breaks sometimes.
Yeah.
Like so
Totally.
Yeah. So for instance, like I would see like, oh, the kids have been having like science, math, and other like classes before mine with full of text, full of readings.
Yeah.
And of course I don't want to add another because they're just gonna be like, oh, why this again? Like we've had a long day.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let me entertain you.
Yeah.
And because like when we make it fun and when we entertain, they learn faster. And
True.
Like
That is
we
true.
remember characters from Game of Thrones, and we probably don't even remember our classmates from like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I know Tyrion Lannister and his speech during the trial.
Yeah.
But I don't remember you. Like, so
And that is the power of story.
yeah, exactly.
And let's not go into the detail of how
Tyrion Lannister,
Tyrion Lannister and all that. I would say really affecting our lives.
Oh, that speech during the
That's
trial.
amazing.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
life changing for me.
Yeah. It could be a moment where you realize that story profoundly impact your professional lives, right? Is there any stories that really affecting the way you look at your professional lives?
A story that
really affects your, probably like you said, the speech, Tyrion Lannister's speech, affecting your professional lives. I think it did to me too, like giving motivation.
Yeah, honestly, no, it kind of makes you think that you gotta fight back.
Exactly.
Stop letting people walk all over you. Yeah, a story that, I mean, for me, it's because this is kind of a really sad thing because I grew up with stories that sometimes I kind of overlook, or I neglect like the effects, the impacts. Like they're like they build up, right? Like I have stories here and there, and then one day I'll be like, oh, I'm inspired to do this, and I completely forgot where the inspiration came from or how I got to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a little bit of build-ups here and there. But I think my favorite was because my mom is a teacher. She's still a teacher now.
Yep.
She told me once she had to deal with a very difficult class.
Okay.
Extremely difficult class.
Okay.
And everyone was always like either on their phones, like texting their boyfriend or girlfriend. Someone was probably like smoking in the corner. Like it was just a mess. And she was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with these kids?
Yeah.
So she started telling stories, and she was teaching accounting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
I would love to know what kind of stories that she's telling the class.
Oh, she got stories. She was like, this company went bankrupt.
Oh.
And she made it so emotional. She got the kids invested, like, and like how you tell stories and you have a hook or like to be continued.
Yeah.
So the kids were like, oh, so what happens? Well, if you want to figure it out, you got to do this worksheet. But
that's not fair.
Yeah.
If I were the student who was like texting at the back, I was like, oh, that's not fair. I want to know.
Yeah, but it kind of inspired the
Exactly,
kids, right?
yeah.
They were like, oh no, we want to know what's gonna
What's
happen.
gonna happen, yeah.
So I remember that, and every time my mom told like the stories, and it's also her stories, like her stories of how she conquered some classes,
Yeah.
and the enemy soldiers, which were her students,
Of course.
and yeah. So for me, I think I was like, yeah, stories can do a lot.
That's actually a good segue to my next point. Like, I understand that it's an important skill to have, regardless, right? But what do you think? Why do you think storytelling skills isn't important, regardless someone's profession?
One of the funniest, kind of like a task. Like I took care of my grandmother when she was sick, and with my mom, and my grandmother always bought into ads on TV, but the ads would have stories, and I think the stories were what captivated her and piqued her interest. So she'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that girl, she's so sad until the boy got her some chocolate milk. Now I want that chocolate milk. I want to be happy like the girl in the ad. Like, I don't think it works that way, Grandma. But she's like, yeah, but I mean, look at the story. You know?
She's happy when she gets that chocolate.
Exactly. She's like, so now give me the chocolate. Like, I want to be happy like her. It's like, you know, bro, it doesn't work that way. But okay, I'll get you.
But they say that the best story is when it's emotionally charged, right?
Yes. So like it was actually my task back then to get everything my grandmother wanted that she saw from some ads on TV. So I was like, yeah, I think one of them was like chocolatos or something. And she was like, yeah, you know, like the couple were fighting and then they made up because of the chocolate. Now get it for me. What? But I bought so many ridiculous things because of
the
ads
story
and the stories.
Yeah.
But of course, like in this world, there's no way we don't interact with people because like we are social creatures.
We are.
And
totally.
the best ways for me to convey a message, deliver some moral lessons and whatever would be through stories.
Yeah.
Because like in stories, you have like the emotional investment, you have the drama, you teach lessons, and we remember things like you said, like emotionally charged, right? Like if it makes you feel sad, you're gonna remember it. If it makes you angry, you'll remember it. So yeah, it works and in either way. Like if you're a lawyer, for instance, you're fighting in the court, you can probably deliver a story that could touch like the judge's heart. You know, your highness, like this is
that's actually one of the point that I want to try to make. I guess the storytelling in itself, it's not exactly for people who's working in an advertising. Like the story of your grandma and the chocolates is probably really works for people who's working in the advertising industries, right? But I really think that the skills can be used for other professions as well. Like us, like startup founders, we have to pitch to clients, to VCs, you know, that, oh, we have that vision, you know, we have this kind of story that we want to bring to them and get them to understand why we're doing what we're doing, right? And like in your case, lawyer can use it as well, right?
Like
so
appeal,
to appeal them to the judges, like even people in the corporate world, I guess, right? They have to, somehow you have to deliver a message. I guess delivering the message is the key here.
Steve Jobs was the one who said like storytellers are like the most powerful people, right?
Oh well, he's making Apple.
Exactly.
It is based on stories, right?
Yeah. So if someone is, you know, successful and he's basically grown this company this big with the products, and he says like storytelling is what matters, then
that's true. So it's not just a specific skill for a specific people in a specific industries, but it actually, how should I say it? It's actually a basic skills that I think people have to have.
Yeah, because you can connect to people that way. Like it's more than just like a bunch of words, right?
Yeah. And if we think about it, what's the biggest thing that storytelling produced to today? Religions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to say it's just a story per se, but we remember what Abraham was doing. We remember what Moses was doing back then. Oh, Moses. Oh, yeah. And then straight away you remember, he's parting the Red Sea.
Jonah and the whale. Like, yeah.
Right. It's all based on the storytelling from generation to generations. Even Greek mythology, like, right?
To this day, we still look at Athena and we're like, oh, knowledge.
Yeah.
And like, how do you even know that? Of course, storytelling.
Of course, right? Storytelling.
So we get to remember like history. We can identify things like, oh, Nike, that's like the Athena symbol or whatever means
Oh,
the
victory,
bat.
right?
Yeah, victory. It's like we actually get to learn so many things thanks to stories.
Stories, yeah.
Their religion, I have to agree.
Well, I have to give you, I have to say like one last point that religion is actually something that we not only we remember, but we actually practice till today by so many people, right? So the idea got passed down for generations through stories.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right?
that's actually true.
I'm putting my points there.
Exactly, because if they just went like this is the word of God, you have to do this. I'm pretty sure people are like, what? Nah. But then like the stories brought everything together. Like, oh, listen to that story. Like there's a moral lesson there.
Yeah.
He didn't listen to God, so this is what happened. Like,
Doesn't listen to the parents. This is what happened.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. So it's we need examples,
Yep.
right? Before we try something, usually we look at someone, we're like, oh yeah, there's an example. That guy walked there and tripped, so I should not.
Exactly.
And stories do it for us like so well.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Now, probably another questions that I wanna put forward is that another skill. I feel like this is another skills that it would be very beneficial if anyone could have is, a humor. Do you think by telling a good jokes, can help into your speaking arsenals? When you're telling a stories, do you think having humor there could help?
Humor is like a really nice band-aid, right? Because like for instance, the story is too sad. Oh, it's too sad. Oh, here's a joke. Laugh
Lighten
a
up a
little.
little bit, yeah.
Lighten up so that it doesn't hurt you as much. Or like the story is too dark.
Yeah.
And here's some humor so that like you don't feel so down. So humor always like helps lift us a bit before like some stories can really drown us. Like some stories can really like ruin us, but humor saves us. And I mean, we both like Trevor Noah. I know that.
Yeah.
We remember his stories till now because we get to laugh.
Yep.
Apart from just being sad or happy or hungry like my grandmother, like we also like laughter, like it helps us remember like, oh, that thing is so funny, and you want to tell someone else about it because it's so funny. So yes, humor is very important.
Yeah.
And to some people like me, if I watch romantic movie without any sense of humor or comedy, like I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like I need that. I really need that band-aid.
Yeah. But then it's also a two-edged sword, don't you think? Like, it can be sensitive to other people.
Yeah.
Or it could fall flat if you're cracking a humor to the wrong audience.
Oh yeah, that's always the worst. That's always the worst.
Right. So it's really a skill that you gotta practice to throw. It's like a risk, yeah. It has a risk in itself, but if you pull it off, I think it's becoming like one of the most memorable speech you would ever make.
Yeah, and I think that's why like storytelling and even just communication in general.
Yeah.
People always underestimate it. They're like, oh, communication, we do it all the time. Why do we need to study it? But in order for us to deliver like a story that would not offend too many people, hopefully, or like deliver a message, the right message, a story that would be relatable to the audience, we would have to observe the audience. We would have to understand their behavior.
That's right.
Their mood, the atmosphere. Like if they're down, then we tell a happy story.
Yeah.
If they're really happy, we can probably tell them like a darker story.
Story, yeah.
If they're into horror, or if it's around Halloween, then we tell a scary story. So in communication, we are trained to understand the audience, to understand the surroundings.
Yeah. Like even if you deliver stories to different audience of a different culture, that's another challenges that you're gonna have to pull off, right? Because you gotta understand something that's probably offensive in there, probably not so much in that audience.
Exactly. It's a lot of preparation that people don't even think of. They're like, oh, you're just telling some random story, but I mean it takes a lot to just get there. Just again, Benjamin Franklin, right? Preparation.
Preparation.
Like, don't fail to prepare because you're preparing to fail. But yeah, it's always like we have to know a lot of things, a lot of research. We have to be very sensitive to their cultures, their beliefs, even their feelings, like on the day, the timing, the right choice of words, because not everyone can take, say, like some cuss words, some terms that are a bit offensive to people. So it's actually very difficult, like the mastery
to pull it off, to master even like as a person. So that's why I think the training or the practice is a lifetime kind of practice.
Yeah, at least make sure that like 50% of your audience is okay. Because I know that it doesn't matter like how good of a storyteller you are. There are gonna be people who hate you.
Of course,
but we should play it safe.
Yeah, of course. So yeah. It's I think you can't make everyone happy on the audience with your story, even though you're not cracking any humor.
Yeah, especially now you put a female protagonist and you're like, oh, it's so woke. What about the boys? Or I was reading. It's
kind of difficult these days.
Yeah, I was reading JJK. Even I fall trapped to it. There's this anime, Jujutsu Kaisen, very famous, and I was so annoyed because I feel like there's no justice for the female characters. I still read it, I still watch it, but I'm like, oh, why you do this? You know? So you can't.
But you still have that open-mindedness on seeing from the author's perspective.
Yeah, because I know it's so hard. It's like, it's a lot of work. We, the audience, we just enjoy it. We're like, this is what you present us. Okay, we either like it or hate it. Meanwhile, the writer, the speaker, the storyteller, their stress level, we have no idea.
Like how much preparation they have to make. It's amazing.
It's a lot of work.
I think it's a good segue to the next one that I wanna discuss is how do you tailor stories to your audience? I understand that we've already touched that in terms of preparations. There's a lot of preparations. Even if you only talk for 30 minutes or like even 15 minutes, you got a lot to prepare, get to know the audience and that. But personally, how do you prepare?
So I would actually ask some random questions. Like if I walk into a room, I would try to get to know. So it's like, tell me a bit about yourselves, guys. Like, what do you guys like? So I would take mental note. Like if they're like, oh yeah, I watch K-drama. And honestly, a lot of people watch K-dramas these days. And I try to be on top of like trends. So we try, we try to be relatable to people. So we don't sound too geeky. So like if I try to follow like the K-drama, the K-pop, not my cup of tea, but I still follow. And I would try to tailor the stories according to what they like. So if they are into K-drama, like majority, then I would say something about like, handsome oppa walking into like a coffee shop and you're like omo or something. So I try to tailor according. Or now since a lot of kids I talk to are like the Gen Alpha skibbity. I changed. Instead of saying like once upon a time this person did this, I'd be like, so what happened was like this dude went to like the friend and said like, bruh, give me some cash, and the friend was like, nah, not today. So I would have to tailor according like the word choice.
That is a difficult task to do.
So to even like speak their language sometimes, right? Oh, it's so Sigma. It's like, oh. But
throw some skibidi toilet word.
Skibidi. But
I still can't figure it out how to talk that way. My kids already like doing it.
So Sigma. I hate it. I really hate it. But it's like if I wanted like teaching some kids now, like how to, because some of them would be like, hey, Miss Devina, how do I approach this girl? Because it's a time already, and I feel like kids nowadays, they grow up so fast. They start early. I'm like, well, I mean, you got some wrist. Once upon a time, a boy with like wrist, went up to this girl, like pass the vibe check, whatever. And so I always tailor according to them by
the audience.
So I watch first, like, okay, majority women, then I can pull off the K-drama. So even in speeches, special competitions, I would prepare like 2 different drafts.
Oh wow.
So like if I would come early and like look at the surroundings, like try to get to know the audience. Okay, this person, the way he dressed, definitely likes anime. Or like this person is a K-drama girl.
Yeah.
And then like from the majority, then I will kind of like
Tailor
the speech accordingly. So I prepare like separate jokes, so like scenario A and B.
Yeah, I remember. I think in one of the Toastmaster contest, I understand the audience are comprises of people who's not married yet, right? So I was like, okay, maybe I can pull a joke of marriage. You know, like, oh yeah, like for example, oh, I understand this audience not married yet, okay, and then the situation is that I'm married with kids, so I'd be like, okay, so you know, marriage should not be your main goals in life because the happiness is just short-lived. I would actually pull those kind of crude jokes.
Very dark,
and they'd be like, "But hey, I mean, like, most of the time I pull it off."
Because you know they find comfort in it, right?
Like
especially here, they're so tired of people telling them like, "Yo, find girlfriend or boyfriend."
When you gonna get married and stuff like that. So I feel like I wanna throw them some sort of comfort, saying that you can be happy without putting a ring on it.
Yeah, two birds, one stone, right? You brought up a joke and then you empowered them in a way.
I'm just hoping my wife don't listen to it. Because she might think it's a half. There's a half truth in it.
I think she'll understand.
Okay. At least I give her context usually. Like, okay, this is why I have to do it.
Yeah, but I know that your speeches are usually very relatable.
Well, I'm trying to get there. I know it's hard, especially when you have to get to know the audience.
Yeah, but love and money never fail.
True, and and that's those are the two things that people most of the time can relate.
Yeah, also most of their complaints.
Yeah, most of the complaints.
Yeah, love, be it like romantic or family, right, or friends, and then like money.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it would be like the two top reason why people get divorced. Let's not go there. It's good. Otherwise, this conversation gonna extend for too long. So yeah, going back. So what's your advice for people who's listening now to sort of improve their skills in storytelling?
Probably, I mean, this is like the one thing I tell people, and they're always like, no, why this? But I always encourage people to read.
Yes. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, and people were like, no, why? Like, why do we have to read? But because like when you read, you kind of like increase that the memory storage for your imagination, your creativity.
Yeah, totally.
You get to see more. Like, we definitely can imagine a lot more things than those who don't read, say, Song of Ice and Fire, maybe, or the other novels, because they don't really see dragons in their heads. Like, we see them all the time, right? So read, maybe watch if that's not really, if reading is not your thing, then you can always watch.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. And then after that, you can try to apply it. You can share the stories. It's always a good exercise to just, even like when you hang out with friends, and when we hang out with friends, we just go like, oh, you know what? I watched this really good TV show.
Yeah.
And then we start telling like this. So this is what happens in the show. That's already storytelling. It's just like I would encourage people to like do more of it. Like, either read a book and drag your friends to suffer with you. Like if you're reading Tolstoy, make sure like you don't suffer alone, right? You drag your other friends and you just tell a story that's so compelling that they want to read the book and suffer with you. Like, like, Anna Karenina is like a beautiful woman, but she was so unhappy, man, with the marriage because like the husband, like I don't think he loved her. Yeah. So she met this really dashing guy. Just read the book. Just read the book. Like read it. Yeah, and then suffer together. Right? Like, I mean, what they don't know can't hurt them yet.
Yeah.
So
definitely reading can help a lot.
Reading helps. And imagining what if. I know daydreaming sometimes, if we do too much of it, we're just like wasting our time.
Yeah.
But then like it's a good exercise as well.
When you say
sometimes.
daydreaming, like daydreaming of telling stories or daydreaming of some fantasy or
Like fantasy, like
Okay.
like some days, like all of us, not all of us, but some of us had the moment of like when we waited for Hogwarts letter, like imagining like the what if,
Yep,
what
there
if
was-
I got the letter, right?
yeah, there was those times waiting for the Hogwarts letters.
Yeah. I didn't sleep when I was 11, but it's like there were times when we imagine like what if this happened, what
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
right? And usually that would take us places.
Mm.
And I feel like that's how a lot of storytellers start too. Like, if we could do this, like, you know.
Yeah. What if I got into Slytherin? Or you know, what if I have? What if the Sorting Hat got me into Ravenclaw? Oh my God.
Like, what would I do? Especially now, a lot of authors, a lot of writers, they started with fan fiction, right? And it's
Yeah.
because they imagine, what if I were Bella Swan?
Yeah.
Would I pick Edward or Jacob? That
Yeah.
I still disagree with that entire thing, but I mean, he's too old and he's a dog. But it's because they start asking the questions like, what if it had been me? What if we lived in a world with vampires and werewolves? So they start writing these stories, publish them, and now they're like best-selling books, right? So it's like ask the questions of like, what if? Imagine yourself in a different room, like maybe in a different world.
Yeah.
Not like, delusion, but
Yeah.
just know the limits, right? But practice that with the mind, like let yourself wander off someplace. Just like Kartini, she was stuck in a room, but then like her mind went places.
Yeah. And what do we get? It's amazing literary treasure.
Yeah. And probably like to turn our precious experiences into stories that we can share with people.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I totally agree what you're saying about you got to read and you start to question what is this.
Yeah.
So get that into habits, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to personally I'm trying to get into that mode of practice because obviously I don't have much time to practice these days.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to is to incorporate those time when I spend it the most, probably at home, for example, right? So I'd be telling stories to my kids before they sleep, or I'm trying to telling a compelling stories to my wife, at least, at home. So usually the conversation goes, how's work today? Right.
Or, since in Toastmasters, we are trained to like tell a story in like 5 to 7 minutes.
Exactly.
And you can share like maybe something happened today and you want to share the story. Make sure you link everything, the information with emotions, like some drama, and add some flair.
Yeah.
And like make sure that you deliver it in 5 to 7 minutes. Like time yourself. Okay.
At least I think it's definitely can be used as a training ground, as practice time,
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone should dismiss that as a place to practice your skills, because you would just most of the time we're just gonna be like, it's just talking to your wife. It doesn't have to be like, I think it's important.
Yeah, it is because like sometimes, especially if we're in like the daily communication.
Yeah.
A lot of times like information just passes through. We're just like, what did you say? Like what? And we don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Or like, don't you remember? I told you this thing happened like last week, and like, well, I mean, you just said like this happened. Like, how would I remember that? But if you added some flair, some drama.
And sometimes as an introvert myself, it is difficult to put myself together after the whole day to put effort into that practice. I must say that I'm not always been a good storyteller. I haven't, but I feel like being introvert is making it a lot worse.
Yeah, well, once a week, bro.
Yeah,
like
there's a goals involved in there, right?
Yeah, like what happened like throughout the week, right?
Yeah.
Like ups and downs and like emotional
Yeah.
roller coaster.
Yeah, and it's not help the fact that I'm an accountant.
It probably helps like remembering numbers better too. Like, you know.
It does. To be honest, being an accountant it doesn't help a lot as well because we're already like, oh my god.
Yeah, you guys are overwhelmed, and you guys are nearing the season 2,
Yes.
or already entering it.
Yeah, but my point is usually accountants don't. It's not good with words, let alone telling stories.
I hate how I fall into the stereotyping
Yep.
because like every time someone tells me like, oh yeah, I'm an accountant, I'm like, okay. I don't expect
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
It's like I already know like I don't expect a lot of like chat. It's like
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Just breathe and live.
Just breathe and live and be present. That's it.
Yeah, just survive because especially now this is like the hellish time for y'all.
Yeah, that's actually a good segue to my next question. Or probably, can you imagine that you're me, and you're an accountant, and you're selling such a boring product to a lot of people, not very compelling to a lot of people. So, how would you tell your clients with the skill of storytelling?
Actually wrote it, so
Oh,
in
amazing.
my style.
Amazing. Let's hear it.
In my style because we need some geeky, nerdy stuff. And also like this is you.
Oh, amazing. Look at
Yeah.
that. Look at that. Oh, tax mastery. Oh, look at that. Can you hear? Can you see?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a bag of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm actually working on a comic for that because I thought this is because taxes,
Damn.
real stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of monsters there. Please tell us this story.
Alrighty. Okay, I'm just gonna read from here.
Yes.
When I was a small kid, I dreamed about fighting monsters. As I grew older, as everyone else did, I realized that there were more terrifying things out there. When we became students, our monsters were exams and report cards. And probably our parents screaming because we didn't get all A's this term. But as we grew older, the monsters transformed, and even monsters from our childhood would cower in fear. The richest and most powerful people would tremble. They would say, we're powerful. We got money. We fear nothing. And then the tax season arrived, and everyone fled the scene. But when everyone ran away, I stayed. Unlike most people, I love tax. I love wrestling with the monster. I enjoy the numbers, I hope. I love the satisfaction of getting it right. So, one day, my friends and we decided to do what Ghostbusters did, or what Sherlock Holmes did, and we wanted to be heroes who would save people from this nightmare, the tax nightmare. And we built our team. We built a system, we grew the company, we found our support, we struggled, but heroes struggle. We spent years of slowly, carefully crafting our skills and knowledge, and we just wanted to be the best. And we started reaching out to people who needed our service, and we fought their battles against this monster that everyone fears. And our clients became happier. They stopped worrying about the taxes, the tax seasons, and the big monster on their calendar no longer scared them because we got their backs. We took up the burdens for them. The sleepless nights too, the endless calculation, things that they cannot stand, but we do enjoy. And nothing brought me greater joy than to fight the battles that most people fear. So we know the journey is still long. We need more monsters to fight in order to grow. But as of now, we are ready to take on more. Our company has grown large and our soldiers are strong. This current situation of political and economical changes we know that we can help other people. We know what to do and how to tackle the tax seasons. We are well equipped and experienced to handle literally anything. And this was my dream. This was my dream, not to be a wizard, not to be some dragon rider, but to be a tax wizard. And we are ready for war. That is if you give us a chance and let us fight your battles.
Wow.
And that's you.
Wow.
As that.
That's the story really signify these drawings.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, amazing. Well, Dev, thank you so much for coming to
Thank
the
you for
podcast.
having me.
It's really great to talk to you, and best of luck. See you later.
Yeah, and best of luck to you guys in the season.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Fight your battles.